Every once in a while, important events happen in the world or questions will come up that need an answer. Things like which government is to be voted into power? What is the meaning of our existence? And what do I want to eat after recording this stupid intro? Okay, that one was kind of silly. So let's move on to the serious stuff. The question, the debate that really matters. Which Call of Duty Zombies map is better, town or farm? Town and farm are the yin and yang of survival zombies maps. Both are basic and bare bones, and it feels like you can't really have one without the other. And there seems to be like this split of town supporters and farm supporters, and I really want to take an objective look at both maps and we'll see what wins. And this video right here is going to settle the score once and for all about these two maps. I wrote down some notes about this, I'll have them here. This should help. So to get started, we're going to have a score. We got town here on the left, and we got farm here on the right. Considering they're both part of transit, that technically means I should start them off on -1 instead of 0, but I'll show some mercy. Both of these are survival maps. They're meant to be relatively bare bones. Maybe not to the level of Narked, but more something like Verrucht, but smaller. Okay, so let's begin by looking at both the maps side by side and just thinking, hey, which one looks better? What's more pleasing to the eye? Here's town, and now here's farm, and now here's town again, and now here's farm. Town is the winner here. Town has less fog, the lava kind of livens up the look, it makes the map a bit brighter. The buildings, although drab, do look a bit more distinct, and then compare that to farm, I mean, it's just the colour brown. So as far as aesthetics go, yeah, town's got that one locked down. Next up, let's look at the map layout. First off, we have town, and the road for town is the center of the map, which is actually where Pack-a-Punch is. Now usually, you're gonna spawn in the center of the map. There's 3 buildings that you can go into, and each building contains a perk. And then there's also the alleyway, and that has a potential box spawn location, and whichever building you go into, whether it be the one with Jug in it, or the bar with Quick Revive, or the bank at Speed Cola, or even if you go down the alleyway and get double tap or something, no matter what happens, you'll always end up going back to the center of the map, and you can kind of re-coordinate yourself from there. And the good thing about everything being in corners almost on this map is that you can easily get from point to point from the center without much fuss. Let's have a look at farm. Farm is definitely a bit of an oddball because it does have a central point, even though it's a really tiny map, that being between the barn and the house, and so a lot of your game for getting perks and the box is gonna essentially just be going between the barn and the house. And I know town is small as well, but it feels like town uses every single bit of the map it has. And don't get me wrong, town is small, it feels silly even trying to compare the layout of such small maps, but with town, it feels like it tries using most of what's there, whereas farm, it just feels like you're constantly going back and forth between barn, house, and there's not that central point like there is in town that brings it all together. So as far as layout goes, I think towns just works a lot better, and keep this layout W in mind because it'll come in useful for later. Let's talk about box locations. Town has a total of 2 box locations, one being in the alley and the other one being where Quick Revive is in the bar. Farm only has 1 box location like Nakdo and Toten, and so it can't move. The box location moving in COD Zombies is one of the most infuriating things ever, so farm takes the W for this one because you can just hit the box all you like and not have to worry about it moving. Unluckily for us, lava is something that was carried over from transit into these survival maps. You would think maybe they would have just sealed the lava over, you know, for the sake of the player's sanity, doing a survival map, but they just kept it in, so enjoy burning. Players objectively hate lava, the less of it the better, and I'm sure if you've played both of these maps at least once, I'm sure you'll know that when you look at town, you can't go 3 steps without walking into lava. Every time you try walking around in town, just when you think you haven't stepped in lava for a while, there it is again, constantly damaging you, setting your butt on fire, and chipping away at your soul, piece by piece. There's no arguing, town has a lot of lava, but farm? Let's just move over there. There's barely any lava there. The only lava on farm are either in parts where you're not gonna go, or just at the front steps of the house, which, to be honest, considering the rest of the map is dry land, it actually makes going from one place to the other feel not that bad. Town gang, if you're sick of the lava, maybe go and play some farm, because it might cure some of the lava depression. Farm easily brings itself another point here for the lava. There's way less of it, which equals less annoyance. Moving on to training and camping. Training and camping are like the bread and butter of zombies playstyles. You either sit in one spot alone or with friends, hunker down for the match and stick it out until you die. Or there's training, which is basically running around, letting the zombies chase you, but you're in control of where it is they're going, and so you're always on the move until you die. These two playstyles completely oppose one another, and believe it or not, both maps actually serve each purpose. So on town, if you're wanting to camp, you have more options than you would think. You have upstairs where Juggernog is, as long as there's multiple people covering it. There's the quick revive room upstairs at the top of the bar, which you can also camp there, and you do have a better chance of running it solo, but much like the jug room, it's a lot easier if you have other players. And the same goes with the alleyway, where you can find double tap as a kind of last stand area. Once again, I wouldn't 100% recommend these on solo, because town's strongest point when it comes to playstyles is training. Pretty much anywhere outside, except for the alleyway, is a viable training spot, and honestly, it gives you enough freedom to make your own little path. Just make sure you watch out for the lava. And then if we look at farm has one training spot. Yeah, just one. Or should I say, it's got one viable training spot. Now, listen, I am no farm expert. I'm sure there's people that have gone to pretty decent rounds for farm using some sort of mad training spot that they made, but they're probably in like the top 0.00001% of zombies players in the world. But from my experience, there's only one training spot that's actually somewhat doable, and that's the center of the map in between the shed, the barn, and the house. And you're basically just doing a conga line round the truck with all the zombies trying to squeeze past just to get a bite out of you. Definitely not perfect though, but it's viable. But farm does actually have some good camping spots. One that I feel is somewhat manageable on solo, and another one which is just very co-op heavy. The first place is the barn. This makes for a good camping spot in co-op, and a decent one when you're solo. You buy double tap because that perk is right there, and plant your ass down with your back against the window. There's going to be a barrier to your right, and then two lanes where the zombies would go up the stairs and then funnel in towards you. It essentially just becomes a game of lane control. Shoot the zombies on the left lane because there's too many, throw a monkey bomb down that lane because there's too many, check the barrier, and rinse and repeat. On co-op, it's a lot easier because, you know, the more players, the more firepower, and the more points of entry they can cover. The other spot is in the house. You're right next to Jug, so if anything goes wrong, you can quickly get revived, grab Jug, and then just jump out of the hole that's in the house. So if it felt a bit drafty whilst you were camping, that's why, it's the big hole. I really wouldn't recommend this solo. This is definitely a co-op only thing, because zombies will flood in from various different directions. Honestly, it'll start feeling like 7 Days to Die on Horde Night. So although town does have some good options for camping, training is 100% the best thing you can do on that map. And as for farm, although training isn't its strong suit, you and the boys could huddle together in the barn and give a good go of it against the horde. And if that doesn't work, then there's the house too. And you have perks very readily available. Town gets the point for training, and farm gets the point for camping. Perks. Perks are so important in zombies, as you know, but on a survival map where it's really bare bones, really small, and you're really vulnerable, perks are such a game changer. I don't think I need to spend long on this one. It's town. Town wins. Town has more perks. It has quick revive, speed cola, juggernog, double tap, and stamina up, which by the way is even more incentive to do some training. Farm just has the basic 4, juggernog, double tap, speed cola, and quick revive. Town just objectively has more perk variety, even if it's just by 1, so yeah. Let's look at the size of the maps. I also think this one's pretty self-explanatory. Town is a segment of a town, and farm is literally just a shed, a barn, and a house. Now granted, the barn actually feels quite spacious. There's a whole upstairs to it. Same with the house, there's a whole upstairs to that. But town not only has a whole street, it has like separate corners you can go to. It's got 2 buildings with a top floor, although granted, the juggernaut building you can't go into, but it is just more verticality nonetheless. There's also that back part where stamina up is in town, which is surprisingly open. So as far as the playable area goes and how big the map is, there's town again, get that point on there. Next we have pacing, which is really weird to put on here for survival maps, but it makes sense in my head. I just hope I can explain this one well. The pacing of a map is how fast you set up, how fast the game's going, you know, how fast the zombies are spawning in, or how slow, how fast it gets hard. I'm talking about the difficulty. To put it in basic terms, does it feel like playing Doris, or does it feel like playing Zetsubo no Shima? Two maps which have completely different pacing. Farm actually has the upper hand here, because not only is Farm a smaller map, so the zombies come faster, and your game feels like it's just speeding up a bit more, and that early round drag doesn't, well, drag, or at least when compared to town, because in town, for whatever reason, the zombies spawn from everywhere in the map. So you'll be all the way at the side of Stamina Up on round 1, shooting the zombie, you know, knifing it, and then all of a sudden, the map will go so quiet, and you'll wonder where the last zombie is, and it turns out it's all the way at the alleyway where double tap is, and you've got to run all the way over to there to then knife the zombie. And honestly, this happens a lot, and it slows the early pacing of town to a crawl. And then also the zombies probably walked on the lava, so then they'll be on fire, so then you can't knife them, because if you do, they'll blow up. So you gotta knife one, let it blow up in your face, wait to heal, and then knife the next zombie, which will then blow up, and rinse and repeat. And those two things mixed together, oh, it makes town's early rounds feel really slow. Maybe it's a skill issue though. Maybe I just need to get good, and maybe I am just an absolute dummy. But you know, I feel more inclined to give Farm the point. Getting set up is also way less hassle too. Well done, Farm. Moving on to solo and co-op. For this, basically what I said for the training and camping thing, really similar here. Town is a really flexible map for solo players. You can run around freely in town, jumping over the lava, running up buildings, and juking zombies, and on your own, you'll have a pretty good time. Co-op is also good for town. You can camp together, and you can also train. It's definitely a cool idea to have one person running a train where Stamina Up is, and another person running a train near where Jug is, that kind of thing. But the beauty of town is you can rotate your training spots, unlike Farm where it's definitely more for the co-op gameplay, the angles zombies come from when you camp, the lack of training spots, and the fact that you just won't get very far if you don't have other people. It really feels like there's a divide between the two, where town is super good for solo and Farm is really good for co-op. And I'm not saying that one or the other doesn't work. You can play co-op and solo on Farm, you can play solo and co-op on town. Hell, me and my friends used to have a thing where two people would go to the top floor at Jug, and then two of us would stay and camp in the quick revive room. And that was a blast, but I think overall, co-op on Farm feels more fun, because literally all you have is each other. You don't have any fancy training spots or segregated parts of the map, you literally just have each other and a freaking barn to stay in. It's similar to the vibe that the Doris Catwalk gives off. So when it comes to solo play, town gets the point, it's just overall superior for solo, and for co-op, that's going to Farm. Once again, really showing that yin and yang feeling that the two maps have together. Onwards to the difficulty. It's actually really hard to judge this one because they're both survival maps, so they're both hard in their own ways. But as far as difficulty goes, I think town is somehow really accessible for casual players and also challenging for high rounders. Sure, you've got more to help you out, but with the lava and the weird zombie spawns, it can actually go from 0 to 100 really quickly. Spinning the box in the alley is dangerous stuff. You are flipping a coin for your life going there, especially on them higher rounds. Farm might be a little too difficult for casuals, and I think its difficulty gets to a point where there's only a certain round you can really get up to. It's almost like you're soft locked because there's no pack-a-punch, no variety of perks. And listen, I do get that that's the point of the map, but like I said, town just has the difficulty and the casual friendly experience all in one. So as much as you could just hop onto a game of town or farm, no matter if you've just started playing zombies and it's your first ever match, or if it's the one of many thousands of matches you've had as a zombies veteran, farm is objectively really hard, and you're kind of soft locked into a certain set of rounds. Town kind of welcomes all players, and really it's one of those maps where it's easy to learn and hard to master, and that's what gives it the point. Creativity is the next one I'm gonna look at, and don't get me wrong, both of these maps are pretty, basic. And I get they have their own atmosphere and their own style. They are both a survival map. They're very small and very limited. But Town not only has Pack-a-Punch, so in fact, whilst we're here, we'll put an extra point on there for features. Town has Pack-a-Punch, Farm doesn't. And even if you don't want to use Pack-a-Punch to challenge yourself, you can go on Town and just not use Pack-a-Punch. So Town just earned itself a sneaky point there, but does it get the point for creativity? Well, let's look at Farm first. Farm just feels a little too basic. Now, it's not Bus Depot levels of basic, that's its own beast entirely. I mean, at least it has perks and a cool set of camping spots, but there's no interesting designs. It's just, this is a barn, this is a shed with a tractor in it, and this is a house. And when we look at Town, this is where that structure with the central part in the middle really gives it the advantage here, because not only is everything you need nicely tucked away in different parts, but also the Pack-a-Punch in the middle. This is the centerpiece of Town. It's the most recognizable part of Town. And on a survival map, having to put yourself in harm's way just to do something is such a cool concept. I'll admit, Farm gets this with the mystery box, but Town also has that too with the alleyway up in the danger factor while spinning it. If you want to use Pack-a-Punch, a very valuable thing in such a bare bones map, you have to work for it. It's a risk reward thing. You have to throw yourself into the lava, run out of it, try not to get swiped by zombies or surrounded, wait for the Pack-a-Punch to finish, and then go back in to grab it and then hop your way out. And if you have 2 weapons, you have to do that twice over. And I think that is what makes Town a really creative and recognizable map. Like I said, as creative as these small survival maps can be, but it does add to the charm of Town, and it's instantly recognizable when you show it to a zombies player. That one's another point for Town. And now for our final factor in the big debate of Farm versus Town. That factor is the fun factor. How fun is each map? And which one is more fun? This is one of those where it's mainly my opinion. I would say Town is widely loved by the zombies community, myself included, and Farm at times can be fun, but I feel like it relies too much on co-op play, because solo Farm can really feel like a bit of a ball ache sometimes. And yes, I understand it's a survival map, but that doesn't necessarily mean it should be boring. When I play Farm, pretty early on, if I'm on my own, I get to a point where I'm just ready to peace out for the match. Whereas Town, there's more bells and whistles to play with, like an extra perk, Pack-a-Punch, a bigger map, multiple training spots that are viable, multiple camping spots, which granted they're better for co-op, but a nice hit of adrenaline when I go to Pack-a-Punch, although I will always hate the lava, and it simply has more going for it. I really think there's a bit more to play around with on Town, trying a new training spot, doing a don't touch the lava challenge, or doing the thing I said where you have 2 people on one building, 2 people on the other, and you can make it a competition where whoever has to jump off first loses. And that's why I think Town is just more fun, or at least for me personally. So Town, you scored yourself another point, and here is our final score. Town is coming in with a whopping 10 points, making it the ultimate Giga Chad. And Farm is more on the lacking side with an average 5. So Town gang, rise up, for the war is over. Does Farm have some good qualities? Of course it does. It's a bare bones challenge map, and it pushes the word challenge to the limits, to be honest. But Town is better. It offers everything a casual and veteran zombies player could want within the realms of a survival map, and the only thing I would really criticize about Town that really drags it down for me is the lava. I think having it at Pack-a-Punch is cool, but I hate the cracks of lava that go all the way around the map. That's really annoying. Well, I could sign off this video saying this was posted by the Town gang, but I think I gave Farm quite a bit of credit for a survival map. Don't start thinking this is like one of my top 5 maps of all time. And now that you've got this far, you should be able to sleep as peacefully as I'm going to be able to, knowing with full clarity that Town is the best survival map out of both Town and Farm. But anyways, I'm going to leave this video here today. If you enjoyed or agree with what I said, be sure to smash the like button, comment your thoughts down below. Do you think Town is the rightful winner, or are you more of a Stardew Valley Zombie Edition fan? Subscribe to the channel if you aren't already, you won't regret it, and turn on the notification bell too to stay notified whenever I upload a video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.